All right, the media, the left, they are going insane tonight over reports that the North Korean dictator, little rocket man, Kim Jong Un, is threatening to pull out of the planned June 12 summit with President Trump over U.S. and South Korean military drills. Now, Kim Jong Un also reportedly canceled pre-planned talks with South Korea. Now, before all of you left-wing liberal activists work yourselves into a frenzy, let me give you the truth and some facts. The State Department and Heather Nauert is saying that this summit in Singapore is going on as planned. That's one. And the Pentagon is adding that these military exercises are going to continue. The big takeaway that the left refuses to understand is this. President Trump is already winning without giving anything up in return. So you idiot ideologues in the Destroy Trump media, you need to watch, learn how to negotiate. Let's see. The president got 3 American hostages out, and he didn't have to send over cargo planes full of cash and other currencies like Barack Obama did with the Muellers. New satellite images are now showing North Korea is already dismantling their nuclear test site. And as we have told you, Kim Jong Un is inviting the Western media to watch as he decommissions that nuclear facility. Also, Kim Jong Un, guess what? Wow, he's no longer firing missiles over Japan. He's not threatening Guam. He's not threatening the continental U.S. and the rest of the world. And yes, you saw it with your own eyes. Well, little rocket man walked across the DMZ to greet South Korea's president. And what did President Trump give up in return for all of this? Nothing. President Trump is not naive. Like Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, they tried to bribe these despots and dictators with billions and hundreds of billions of dollars. What we're seeing here is typical quintessential Reagan. Trust but verify. In action. Before your very eyes. Now, if Kim Jong Un wants to come to the table, then fine. We know the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, he has laid out all the details, all the terms for a possible agreement, and that includes complete and total denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. And if little rocket man doesn't want to comply, well, then he has to face the consequences. And President Trump has made clear North Korea is not going to get away with threatening the world, and he will never be able to fully develop a nuclear weapon. Here's my prediction tonight. Kim Jong Un, well, he's being a little petulant. He's posturing. He's doing a little saber rattling before he ultimately capitulates, goes to the table. Now, even more breaking news to tell you about tonight. President Trump's attorney, Rudy Giuliani, the former New York City mayor, he's telling NBC News that he has spoken with Mueller and his partisan team of witch hunters in the past 24 hours. He's now saying that a potential presidential interview is being put in a holding pattern, which is great news. Mueller has no business ever questioning the president of the United States. There's no such thing as collusion. Although there might be with Mueller and that oligarch guy. I'll explain. Now, remember the leaked special counsel question? Asking Trump what he thought, how he felt. How did you feel? Well, those are ridiculous questions. Mueller's clearly setting, in that case, a perjury trap. No good lawyer would let the president be interviewed under those conditions. And also tonight, the president, he's continuing to keep his promises to you, the American people. The forgotten men and women that the media never thought would show up in November of 2016. And he's now calling on Congress to do their job. Secure the border. Do it now. Take a look.
The first duty of government is to protect our citizens, and the men and women of DHS are on the front lines of this incredible, heroic fight. That is why we are calling on Congress to secure our borders, support our border agents, stop sanctuary cities, and shut down policies that release violent criminals back into our communities. We don't want it any longer.
No, we don't. We need to protect the American people. Now, President Trump, he has already accumulated an amazing record of accomplishments for every Republican, if they're smart, that they can run on in November. And this would just be another key victory. Look at the economy. Record low levels of unemployment. Optimism at 11-year high. The president's poll numbers, the highest he's had in his presidency. And there's their promises that are kept on the Iranian deal, on the embassy in Jerusalem, on tax cuts, on killing the Obamacare individual mandate. And there are positive results all over the place. And by the way, it hasn't even been 2 years. Also tonight, this is major. The Russia collusion hoax is unraveling, as we predicted. right before our eyes. The House Intelligence Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, he is offering up new proof that the entire thing has always been a witch hunt. Chairman Nunes is now saying that there was never any credible evidence for the FBI to begin probing the Trump campaign. Now we know there was a spy, supposedly, on top of the FISA abuse. He never had any right to do this in the first place. Take a look.
We have yet to see any credible evidence or intelligence that led to the opening of this investigation. I believe they never should have opened a counterintelligence investigation into a political party. Counterintelligence investigations are very rarely do they happen, and when they do happen, you have to be very careful because you're using the tools of our intelligence services and relationships with other countries in order to spy on a political campaign. Probably not a good idea.
The powerful tools of intelligence used to spy on an opposition party candidate, and those powerful tools used against Americans, no, that can't happen here. So there was never any actual credible evidence to launch this investigation. And, of course, Rod Rosenstein conflicted. This is a stunning statement by Devin Nunes. And that's on top of course, the FBI, the DOJ, lying, misleading FISA judges multiple times in order to get a FISA warrant to spy on a Trump campaign associate in the weeks leading up to an election. And for an entire year, 4 judges lied to. They never were told the truth. They never told it was a bought and paid for Clinton dossier that was not verified, not corroborated. And now there's a new dynamic to this massive scandal. Now the possibility of an FBI mole that was inside the Trump campaign. Now Chairman Nunes is now investigating this huge development. Take a look.
You had Fusion GPS that was hired by the Democratic Party in the Clinton campaign to draw up a dossier on the president, or as the president was running for president. What happened with that is that in his testimony, he mentioned that there was a source within the campaign.
Glenn Simpson, who runs Fusion GPS.
Glenn Simpson said that in public, what was closed testimony, then it became public. Now he's confirmed that he was telling Congress the truth, which is probably a good idea. We believe he was telling the truth. And what we're trying to do is get the documents to figure out, did they actually have, what methods were used to open this counterintelligence investigation.
That is an amazing statement. We have been saying that this scandal is the biggest abuse of power scandal and corruption scandal in American history, and that we have been uncovering this and peeling back the onion. This is only the beginning. You got to sit tight and buckle up, because everything that the media, the Democrats, have been telling you for well over a year is now getting flipped on its head, and all of it, as we told you at the beginning of this year, is boomeranging back on them. Now, while the real Russia scandal is expanding, well, Robert Mueller's witch hunt is crumbling. Now, it's reaching embarrassing levels. Let's run through some of the recent headlines. At Mueller's probe's first trial, expect more blunt lectures from the bench. Now, that judge, T.S. Ellis III, already smacked down in epic fashion Mueller's team, calling them out for trying to flip Paul Manafort on an effort unrelated. It had to do with the Ukraine and tax fraud from 2005. What does that have to do with Trump-Russia collusion? The Washington Times, indicted firm Mueller trying to justify his own existence and indict a Russian, any Russian. These court transcripts reportedly show Robert Mueller indicted a Russian company. It didn't exist at the time, they said. Now, this is now showing that Mueller's original indictment was nothing more than an illusion to make it seem like there was some sort of Russia collusion. Mueller never anticipated that the Russians were going to call his bluff. This is a huge embarrassment for him. And now there are the special counsel. They look foolish because his team was never prepared, as Andy McCarthy said. It was all for show. Byron York out with this piece. 1 year down, and it's still Mueller time. And he writes that Russia probe has now been going on for almost 3 years, and there is not one indication what this entire investigation is really about. Now, here's what we do know. After all of this time, there is zero evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. It's been a witch hunt, it is a witch hunt, and it is a total sham. And for the sake of the country, it needs to end. And then we have key updates to John Solomon's explosive report that we brought you last night about the FBI Director Mueller actually working with the Russian billionaire Oleg Deripaska is his name, now part of the investigation. He was working with him. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong. I'm going to defend Robert Mueller on this. He and other FBI agents, they were trying to free a former FBI retiree, a CIA operative. His name is Robert Levinson from Iran. He was being held hostage. Now, I'm happy that he was working with the Russian billionaire, the oligarch, that he somehow convinced the oligarch to give him $25 million to help save an American being held hostage. I have no problem with that at all. The government should do everything possible in that situation. I'll give Mueller credit. It was the right thing to do. Here's the issue. It's just a massive conflict of interest. And that's what we're calling Mueller's Russian collusion here. You know what? If you're going to talk about a guy in a Manafort case that you worked with, that you secured $25 million from, I think you need to reveal something like that. Now, John Solomon reporting tonight that Russian oligarch is one of the first people the FBI actually interviewed when they began investigating the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. And as Solomon and others are now exposing, the Russian actually told the FBI the idea of Russian collusion was false. So now the question is, did the FBI tell the FISA courts that a former trusted source of theirs told them that there was nothing to this Russia collusion when they were applying for those 4 FISA warrants? The original application and 3 subsequent applications, all using the bulk of information from the Clinton bought and paid for unverified dossier with Russian lies. They lied about it to the FISA court to spy on an American citizen, an opposition party campaign member. Now, another developing story to tell you about tonight. The meeting between the DOJ and the House Committee Chairman, Devin Nunes, and Trey Gowdy that was reportedly scheduled for next week, well, that's not happening. Why? Nunes and Gowdy were again supposed to see the 1.2 million classified documents and information that they have been requesting about the Russia investigation. At this hour, it's unclear why this meeting is no longer happening, but what is clear is that Rod Rosenstein, the Department of Justice, they have been stonewalling Congress every single step of the way. And the DOJ is also trying to sabotage the work that people like Nunes, Goodlatte, Gowdy are doing with anonymous leaks. They want to slow roll this until the midterms, hoping Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats take over the House, so then they won't reveal any of this. Now, also tonight, Fox News is learning that Congress has received information from the DOJ that it requested regarding Comey's buddy. Remember that professor over at Columbia University, now his attorney, Daniel Richman. Remember, he was he had special government employee status. Former Obama deep state DOJ official Sally Yates, interestingly, she's going after the president, claiming that he's, quote, tearing down the legitimacy of the DOJ. Sally, you're probably watching. But you and the rest of your deep state cronies, you have already done enough damage. And the sad part is rank and file, FBI, CIA, intelligence, their reputations are smeared because of deep state operatives at the upper echelon and the misdeeds that they did in all of this that we have now proven on this show. And maybe, Sally, you're forgetting you were emailing with Mueller's pit bull, Andrew Weissman. And Yates is also one of the corrupt officials that signed off on at least one of the FISA warrants that was unverified, uncorroborated. So congratulations, Sally. You've done enough damage to the DOJ, more than any president ever could. And one more thing tonight. Trump-hating former CIA director John Brennan is being called out by 2 of his former colleagues over his public statements about the Clinton bought and paid for dossier. Paul Sperry reporting that 2 former top officials are actually contradicting Brennan's claim that the dossier did not play a role in the intelligence community's assessment of Russian election meddling. Now, Sperry is pointing out that former NSA Director Mike Rogers told Congress the dossier did, in fact, play a role in the intel assessment. And former Director of National Intelligence James Clapper admitted something similar to CNN. And we know Clapper and Brennan have both lied. So it looks like Brennan, once again, is caught lying. Now, I guess this isn't surprising from a guy who once voted for the communists for president of the United States. How he ever got that position is beyond any understanding I have. Anyway, finally tonight, last thing. President Trump is on the verge of another huge victory. This is good news for all of us. Gina Haspel now has the votes to be the next CIA director. And the fact that it took this long, just a few weeks ago, Democrats, for them to support her, now is pretty disgraceful on their part. Gina Haspel was an American hero. She helped keep us safe after 9/11. She helped get the intelligence to find bin Laden. And here's another fact the left will never admit. Enhanced interrogation of the 3 people under medical supervision worked It gave us the valuable intel, allowed us to get to the courier, which took us right to bin Laden. Democrats should have been praising Haspel. Actually, they were at the time, because she's more than qualified.